Clone Wars is one of the shows. It's a
There was also
series.
there was also one of the movies that was a Clone War, right? Or Attack of the Clones or something.
Yeah.
Whatever. Okay, I'm sorry. Jesus. You can you can educate me on all the Star Wars.
I
I will
will.
continue educating
By the
people on
way,
Disney.
happy Revenge of the Sith. Actually, it's
Oh,
Revenge of
Revenge of
the
the
5th.
5th. I get it. But yes, so
We do both days. We do all 3 days. May the 4th be with you, Revenge of the 5th, and then we also say Revenge of the Sith.
I see. Okay, and also by the time this airs, guys, in case you didn't catch up, yesterday was May the 4th, and today is Cinco de Mayo. Yeah, I said it wrong on purpose. Okay. Anywho,
Mayo. Okay.
Cinco de Mayo. Cinco de Mayo. Feliz Cinco de Mayo to all my Mexican homies out there.
Evolutions today.
Evolutions. As you can see, I have notes on notes on notes. I did an entire outline. I didn't do this shit when I was in high school, but I did
I'm
this.
doing them now.
But now there was just too much for me to cover.
May I? I don't know.
You may. Go ahead.
We should probably talk.
We got a lot to
An
talk about,
intro?
and we have a
We didn't
hard
even do the
stop.
intro yet.
We didn't do the intro. Who's got time for this today?
No one. Let's go. Intro done. Check.
Check. Hey everybody out there. I am Vanessa. This is Sylvia. We are here to educate you on everything Disney and psychology and ADHD and all the neurodivergent stuff out there. You can find me on Instagram, Mind of Vans. You can find this lady,
Maiden of the Forest, Tarot, _ in between each word, please, on Instagram.
You are now entering the rabbit hole. Welcome to Adventures in Vanderland.
Yes, right button.
All right. That we had time for. Okay, so last week what did we even talk about last week? I don't remember.
I don't remember. Listen, we are two very busy ladies.
We're so busy.
If you ask me what day of the week it is, I only know it's Monday because I see you on Monday.
I know that I assign let's watch. We talked about doing Evolutions.
4 out of the 5
You were
movies.
watching more movies before I got to watch movies. Like the little bit of time I was home when I tried to watch movies, I was falling asleep on those movies. So, but I had a lot of thoughts. So let's just get right into it. I actually have 2 different outlines. This was a pre-outline. This is the outline. And I started by let's go over the different eras.
Okay,
Let's
let's
define
do
them.
it.
So we got the classic era.
Yeah.
Snow White, Cinderella, Aurora. I put as a asterisk Alice. That movie came out. This is, by the way, I just went with all of the heroines that are in here. No, they're not all princesses, but I feel like they contributed to the different eras in different ways. So I put Alice in there. We have the Renaissance, Ariel, Belle, Jasmine, Pocahontas, Esmeralda, Megara, Mulan, and Jane from Tarzan.
I've never seen Tarzan. See, that's exactly how us Star Wars people react when our best friends don't watch Star Wars.
But you're a Disney nerd as much as you are a Star Wars nerd.
True. I have to watch that still.
And there's so many theories about her.
Okay, that is a new homework assignment.
Okay. Anyway, moving on. So Google or ChatGPT, whatever I was springboarding with, defined a transitional era from 2000 to 2009 and has Kida, Lilo and Nani, and Tiana. And then we have our modern or contemporary times, which is Rapunzel, Merida, Elsa, Anna, Moana, Raya, and I guess Mirabelle and all the other chicks from Encanto. Really everybody in Encanto has a big part to play.
Yeah, big superpower.
Yeah. All right, cool. So are we ready to get into it?
Let's do it.
Which movies did you watch, by the way?
Okay, so I watch all of these while I'm doing stuff like doing chores or whatever. So I watched, the first one was Hunchback of Notre Dame.
I watched that one too.
And then the second one I watched was Pocahontas. And then I watched Mulan, and then I watched Brave.
Lovely. Yeah. I tried to watch Brave, but I had my nephew, it didn't work out. I did watch Hunchback. I watched Mulan, not during this week, but I watched it the previous weekend. So I feel like we touched on that last time. I had watched all the originals before last time. I think that's what we talked about last week.
We did, yeah, because we were a
Um,
little harsh
we were very harsh on them.
first episode.
Some of those
Whatever.
things.
And you know what's funny? We were still kind of harsh
We
last
still
week, so I don't know.
we were, but I was enlightened to new things. Anyhow, I watched Princess and the Frog. I actually watched Raya, in The Last Dragon. It made me cry. I watched Lilo and Stitch. It made me cry. Did any of these movies make you cry?
Of course.
Oh, okay.
So,
Got it.
and here's the funny thing: the classic era didn't really make me cry. The
It
Renaissance era makes me cry, and on. Like from Renaissance
Mhm.
on, it makes me cry. And the more and
Like, you
more,
cried at Pocahontas?
yeah,
Okay.
I'm a very spiritual person. Okay,
I'm
like
not judging you. I never cried, but I probably haven't watched it since I was, like, a kid, though.
the willow tree always gets me. I'm just like,
Way. Sorry.
and then the song and like the spirit of her mom and the leaves and everything. I'm just like, mm,
I love
aw,
those sunsets.
yeah.
All right. So in general, this is the wrong one. This is the correct one.
Okay. Well, let's move on, anyways.
Anyway, all right. General. So a summary of the classics. So this is just what I noticed about the themes of each era. Any themes that you noticed? I want to get your point. I've been in my head all week.
So the theme that I noticed and the theory that I have of the evolution of the princesses is literally evolution of women with women's history. If you go all the way back to 19, where were
Look
we?
at
19.
section 3 of my outline.
Oh my gosh. Wait,
historical
I have
con-
too many papers.
historical context. Yes.
Yeah. If you go back to the classic era, you look at how the women were written, they were written silent. They didn't have any parts, they didn't have
Absolutely.
any lines, they didn't have, which is probably why we went so harsh on them the first time.
She was
And
asleep. They
then
were asleep
we
most
get
of
to
it.
like the Renaissance. Ooh, hold on, itchy ear. Then we get to the Renaissance era, and it's like, okay, these women are more like the teenagers we were seeing at the
Uh,
time. They were more a little rebellious. They were more
yes.
adventurous. They were very curious
Yep.
creatures. And then you go even further, and now princesses and are becoming the heroine. They're the ones that are
Absolutely.
protecting. They're the ones that are fighting. They're the ones standing up. They're the ones that want justice.
Right. And
I get
so,
chills every time I see Esmeralda. Justice! Anyways,
first of all, yeah, that movie was
very
intense.
intense.
I have oof, ugh.
That was that was like my evil laugh.
Reconfirmed from what was it? I think it was episode 2 or episode 3 when we ranked the villains, and I
Yeah.
said Frollo was the
Mm.
worst of the worst villain, or he was technically the best villain because he was the worst.
And we were like, who's going to resonate with that?
Like, he's the actual worst. Like, how do you pretend to be so pious and yet you are willing to kill people in cold blood? Ooh. Ugh. All right. But yeah, the historical context. So I did talk about in my outline the fact that the classic era was post World War II, post both world wars, whatever. And so women were returning home, and there was a societal expectation for them to be like domestic homemakers, silent, demure. So
And
there
that was after women were already put
and
into
that
work and then had to
exactly.
get
They
back
had to
into
take
the
o
house.
they took over at the factories while the men were all fighting,
Like,
and then
y'all
get
wanted
back
us
in the
and
kitchen barefoot.
you wanted us for the economy, but then as soon as everyone comes back, you're like,
Remember
get
A
back
League
in
of Their
there.
Own?
Oh
That's
my god, I love A League of Their
I
Own.
that's like one of my favorite movies. Absolutely one of my favorite
I actually
movies.
have a costume for Dottie.
Shut up.
I do.
I love that for you.
Thank you.
I want one too.
Alex was the coach.
Jimmy?
Yeah.
What
I
wait,
was
my
annoying him
favorite
so
line is
bad.
like, "There's no crying in baseball." I love saying that, and then he's like, "That's that lump 3 feet above your ass," or
Yeah.
something like that. I love it. He has some great lines. Oh, Hank. Tom Hanks. Anyway, so Renaissance era, I said that so you already talked about, like, the defiance and, the rebellion and stuff like that. So we're looking at the late '80s, early '90s.
And then we see more culture
We do
with
see more
Mulan.
culture, but particularly, I did put that this was, like, the second wave of feminism. So this is, like, after burning bras and all that jazz, like, you had the women really fighting
And all
for
that
equality.
jazz.
and all that jazz. We have women fighting for equal pay, equal rights, like all of those things, and because of that, we're seeing them fighting mostly for love still. Like, love still plays, like, a central part of their stories, but
Mhm.
they're fighting to choose who they wanna be with, not just, like, some random guy that just happened to happen upon you in the woods one day.
Yeah, exactly. And also, may I also note,
Please.
it's not just men that were writing these stories as we go more and more into the future here with these princesses and
We
these
do
stories.
have
There are more female writers and more directors and producers that were of women during these
that.
stories.
Absolutely, and then even as we get into the contemporary time, so with contemporary, and this is post 9/11, you have people who, like, were going through recessions. Oh, 2000, ooh,
Are we not? Are we still not? I mean,
to I mean, I said recessions.
one after the other. Bam,
Like,
bam.
when have we not been in a recession since, like, 2008?
Yo, millennials, we tough.
We are of a different breed, y'all, because
Mm.
of just the things we done been through. But you have the focus shifting now to family and to with Tiana, like, building, like, financial health, going she was in the 20s when or the 20s, 30s when they were also going through the Great Depression. So or right before it, whatever. I'm talking a lot. Anyway,
A lotta.
oh, wow. You making a lot of noise on this microphone today.
That's fine.
It's fine. Editor Anthony, he can get it out.
Or Jackie Chan, was it ding ding?
Ding, ding.
Ding
Yeah,
ding.
is that why you said that to
Yes, I
me?
did.
I love that.
Ding ding.
Ding, ding. Alright, it didn't seem like he was doing that to, like, mark things, though. He was just
No, he was like, "Hey, ding ding, like action, ding ding.
yeah, oh, ding,
Let's
ding was
go.
action. This
Ding
is
ding.
like, edit it out. Anywho,
Ding ding."
ding, ding. So, where was
I
I?
kinda want Anthony to keep that.
He can keep that in. Outtakes are fun. Um Yeah, so we see them, really, like, just going more towards family and self-actualization, like, they have a greater purpose that they're looking for, like, happily ever after is not what they're looking for, or happily ever after is the equivalent to, finding who they are, their greater purpose in life, or building better connections with others and their families and this, that, and the other. And then, as you mentioned, there's more females behind the scenes. We also have more people of color behind the scenes. Like,
Mhm.
especially in the teens, there's that big push in like Hollywood
Mhm.
for better, more representation.
And I love how now it's, like, getting into a lot more, different aspects of the human rather than just, "Oh, there's a prince, a princess," or, "Oh, here's
Right.
a thing." It's like Soul. That was
As
an amazing,
that was a
epic that was a
beautiful I cried. I
beautiful
cried.
Coco, and, like, we're
Oh
getting
my
into
god, I forgot about oh my god,
cultural
Coco.
spiritualism, and then even with, Inside Out, like, feelings,
And I
emotions.
made a note
I
of that as well.
love the
And
evolution
that
or
is
these movies are
exactly what they
going
did.
to.
I got there too. That's all in the notes. I love how you just I have to, like, make notes to remember all the things that I wanna talk about. You just talk about them.
It's in here and then it comes out this way.
But no, like, absolutely. I mean, you definitely see them creating folks that are more well-rounded. Like, these princesses in contemporary times have personality, and you start with, like, with Tiana, that girl was a boss babe. We've talked about it. I can't get enough of her, but, like, even with Rapunzel, she was, like, unsure of herself, but we saw her growing in her confidence, and she definitely knew how to handle a frying pan regardless of, like, whatever she had been through before. It was like, "I got my secret weapon." You've got, Elsa and Anna, like, they are absolute representations. I think that entire film of characters has representation for different neurological, mental health, like stages of grief. Like, you have a lot of well-roundedness going on in these new movies, and I love that Inside Out and Inside Out 2 really touch on emotional health
Mhm.
and not just, like, mental conditions and mental
It
health.
like emotional health, emotional balance, how to
Absolutely.
and even, Turning Red was great
Turning Red is
for,
yep,
growing and anxiety. Oh, you it's on there?
it's in the notes. For anxiety, I think we talked about how I feel like it also is representational of, like, a neurodivergent person's journey. like coming into their own.
I love the evolution of how we just did this already.
Me too. I have like a 6-page outline. I
You
actually
got
have
papers
I have
everywhere.
multiple outlines because I redid them multiple times and we just did it in 10 minutes.
Woo!
So what else do you wanna talk about? Was that all of the evolutions? Did we talk about everything there is to talk about that fast?
There's no way, right?
There's absolutely no way.
Shift from romance to personal growth, healing. Actually, I think we are just that gifted
We're that gifted.
that
You
we
know,
just were like, we have a short amount of time for you folks. Bam.
another note that I actually made was with Alice in Wonderland. So, one of the things is, yeah, the original was part of the classic, and she basically was just she was the exception to the classic rule of she's, like, doing her own thing. She wasn't but she was
Yeah,
also young.
because if I actually think about Alice, I don't really classify her personality or that movie in a classic era. I think of it more as a
She was ahead of her
renaissance.
time.
She was definitely, and the writers there were also ahead of their time too,
Absolutely.
because she was like the main focus.
But what's funny about it is the remake that was done in the 10s when we have these women who are like, "I don't need marriage." Like, you have Merida openly rejecting arranged marriage. She's like, "I'm gonna fight for my own hand."
Oh, by the way, when you have time, when we're done talking about this, remind me to talk about Mirda and her family and the zodiac
Oh,
signs because I
we
have
can go into
when you
Lilo and
have
Stitch. I have a lot of notes about Lilo and Stitch, but let's go. So, but we have that. But with Alice in the contemporary movie, she is like the reason she finds Wonderland is because she's trying to escape this societal expectations of an arranged marriage. So
Mhm.
I thought that was kind of an
Yeah,
interesting
that was a great,
like
way of evolutionizing it and then also kinda putting it back
putting her back
into
into
the
her
classic
era.
era. Yeah. That was
That
smart.
was an I
That was
wonder,
smart.
did Disney really mean to do that though, or did they was like,
Happy coincidence?
we have an older chick this time, so, like, let's just make her have a love interest or a an arranged marriage, something to fight against.
I don't know. If they did it on purpose, very smart.
Very smart.
Very smart.
I doubt it because I'm the smart one for finding it, for
So,
figuring it out.
real quick,
Go into it.
with Brave, I could not stop thinking about zodiac signs with Brave,
Okay.
and also with Brave, there is an evolution here, and there
Mhm.
is a de-evolution. So it's because of the times, right?
Sure.
Right now we have phone lines and radio frequencies and internets and all that stuff. So back then they didn't have any of that. So everyone's gifts, everyone's eyes, everyone's third eyes were a lot more open. So
Mm,
seeing the wisps, seeing the magic,
right.
seeing uh believing in the tales and the legends, that is and was most definitely a thing back in the day. And I truly do feel that everyone has gifts and it's just been diluted with all the
Oh,
frequencies and everything that's going
100%.
on.
I can see that with myself.
So I do feel like that story could have been a really true, very good story. But I could not stop thinking about the zodiac signs. And I'm like, okay, for me, I'm getting a lot of Libra with some Sagittarius for Myrta. I was
Okay.
like, okay,
She's an
Libra,
airhead?
yeah, Libra women and Libra men, they're all about balance, right? So
Mhm.
a lot of times Libra men will have that little feminine bits to them. You know,
Okay.
they like to look good, they want to smell good, they go more into their appearance whereas a lot of Libra women that I've met are kind of tomboyish.
Okay.
And I'm talking about September Libra people. Don't come at me with the comments saying, "Oh, well, I'm a Libra and I dress fine as hell." No, I'm talking about September Libras, and you can go ahead and say that that's not you. That's fine. I'm just saying, in my experience, what I find September Libras, especially September Libra women, are a little bit more independent. They are more
Mhm.
active. They are more into sports. They're more competitive. And the thing is her father strikes me as an Aries who brings her up with that fireside, and he gets put in his place by his Virgo wife.
You
Who
know
is so
what's
perfectionism, but like is so grounded with earth and sets things astray and right. Like if
I
the
can
fight's
see
going
her
on, she
being
brings
Earth.
everybody back down to ground, right?
Yeah.
And then Mirda steers everything up with the air, and then the father strikes with fire. I couldn't stop thinking about the
I
zodiac
okay,
signs.
so a couple things. So my dad is an October Libra.
Oh, my brother's an October Libra.
What's his
The 20th. 20th.
Oh, okay, he's, like, right on that cusp, but, no, my dad's the 1st week of October, and I don't know if do I see feminine energy in my dad? I don't know, but I do see similar energy between, the dad and Brave and my dad, like, the kind of, like, always joking around, kind of like I don't know, like, his dad like, that girl dad vibes that he got, I guess, like, that's what's reminding me of my dad a little bit, like, he was always making, like, dad jokes and stuff like
I
that, and,
love dad jokes.
him giving her a bow.
But, like, again, like, for me, it just striked me as
Get what
as
you asked for.
Aries energy and a evolved Aries, right?
Okay.
Grounded by his wife, so he has that grounding there, but, like, when it comes to his child, he wants his child to follow passions, and when she was, like, playing with the bow, he's like, "Imma get her a bow." But
See,
then the
I
mom's like, "She doesn't need a bow, she's a lady," and he's like, "Heh, heh, heh."
I have to I'm gonna challenge you a little bit. I
Yeah.
do see the mom as an earth sign, but I see her more as a Cap, and this might be because she reminds me of my mother, who's a
Oh
Cap.
gosh.
I mean, the wanting your daughter to be perfect, like,
Virgo.
maybe it's just an earth mom thing.
It could be an Earth mom thing. Capricorn, I would feel like it's like,
Like, my mom used to
all
make me walk with
business.
books on my head
So I
for
can
no reason.
I can understand, where you're coming from because Capricorn is, a lot more about business. They
And
are about
and
family
and
though
my
too.
mom was all about business,
But the thing is Virgos is very about also, how things can look
and my
and
mom is very much about perception, like,
oh,
yes, she's very much like, you know, things might be falling apart inside the home, but when we go out, we're gonna look like a tight family unit, you know what I mean?
Virgos are also someone that, like, likes to plan, likes to be
Yep.
organized, and you always see her, like, she knows exactly where everything is. When Mirda was like, "We have to mend it," she was as a bear, was, like, plopping around to
With
her
the
little
little
desk,
fork and
opening the guest oh my god, the little fork with the blueberries, and she just went and
That's
she's
so
like,
cute.
"Those are poisonous." And she's
Mm.
like, "Where'd you get this water from? It has worms."
Oh god, I love your accent. Oh my gosh, but yeah, but that's very interesting. So you said the dad is giving fire, mom's giving
Earth,
earth,
and
and she's
she
giving air.
yeah.
What about the
Oh
triplets?
my god, Taurus. They are so into their snacks,
I don't know, they're
and but
so
they're
but
s
they're
but
so
they're f
chaotic
but
though.
they're family oriented, right? So they're family oriented, they do anything for the sister as long as it's with snacks.
See, I was almost getting Gemini energy, like, they're very chaotic to me, like, they're sweet, but then they're sassy, they're
Oh,
like
like a Sour Patch Kid?
yeah, they're a bunch of little Sour Patch Kids. But, and it's very interesting that you have 3 different signs or 3 different elementals with this family, because my family because it reminds me of mine, dad is a Libra, mom's a Cap. You got a Pisces and me, the Cancer for my sister's the Pisces, I'm a Cancer.
Hmm, nice
So
balance.
but is it?
Is there any Earth there,
N
or
no. Oh,
it's
my mom's the Earth.
okay,
My
yeah.
mom's the Earth, me and my sister are water, and my dad's the air.
And that makes kinda sense why she would be the one that tries to, like, bring everybody to ground and bring everybody to structure and try to be,
She just does it in the
the
wrong way.
more of the what am I thinking of here? The visuals of, like, how things look and how it's perceived. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. So, that's very
I mean,
interesting.
Capricorns and Virgos, they're similar when it comes to earth elements, but I do see Virgos being a lot more OCD, more plan orientated, more structured. Whereas
Maybe
Capricorn,
maybe
I
hers is
have
like an
more I see
anxious
more drive in Capricorn. There's a
mm,
lot of drive in Capricorn.
she's definitely a driven individual.
Um, both actually all earth
Mhm.
signs are very family oriented. They are very
Yeah,
grounding the family. They want to protect the family. So, all earth signs are like that too.
very interesting. So, my observations for Lilo and Stitch, first of all, I know I said this, or I think I said this to you. I don't know if I said this on this podcast before, but Lilo definitely gives me ASD vibes. But I'm also seeing that Stitch has clear ADHD. And it got me thinking about like the dynamics between an ASD and an ADHD, or like I went down the rabbit hole, like looking into like what is that really like when you have somebody with ASD and ADHD, because there's a lot of overlap, but they're also on different ends of the spectrum.
Good friends.
They make great friends, and I
Good
think the same thing with
friends.
Anna and Elsa, because 'cause I've said, Elsa is ASD and, Elsa's ASD, Anna's ADHD. Like, it just and then you see that as a different like, the other, opposite end of that spectrum where Lilo and Stitch were instantly like, "Boop, we're best friends." Elsa and Anna, they had to grow into it, like, they didn't understand each other right away, and they had to grow into their relationship. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I feel like Anna wanted the relationship more.
And
I
she was
wouldn't want to say
codependent.
more, but I feel like Anna wanted to have that relationship. She wanted to bloom the relationship, whereas Elsa was so fearful about having that relationship for fearful of hurting her.
Right.
So I understand both sides there. So yes, I get your point.
Yeah, but, as I was doing some of my springboarding, yeah, ChatGPT definitely said that. It's my new bestie. But, we talked about the fact that, yeah, there's a natural bond of, like, because both types of people can be outcast or made fun of, they kind of can be ostracized when they meet each other. They do have, like, an instant, "I get you," and they got kinda give each other more grace and for even the weirdness, things that they don't like about each other because Lilo and Stitch weren't always, like, super tight. They had a lot of
Mhm.
disagreements,
Yeah,
and they've caused a lot of chaos
like the
together.
water gun. Don't do that.
I mean, the whole Elvis sequence while Nani's out there trying to get a job for these chicks or, well, people, whatever, like, they're over here ramping it up every single place they stop at. It starts off as, like, "Learn how to play the ukulele. Let's get a mad loud speaker and just destroy the beach." Like, it was very interesting. It was very chaotic, but I enjoyed their chaotic energy together.
You know what we didn't talk about,
What?
with evolution of the films? I know we spoke about the main characters, but what about the sidekicks?
What about the sidekicks?
Do you feel like
The
the
sidekicks
sidekicks evolutionized as well from, let's say, Ariel? Because I feel like the classics didn't really
classics didn't
have
really
a lot of
no, they just
sidekicks.
had forest animals doing their bidding.
Or really bad fairies just with their egos
Yeah.
destroying the
Oh my
plan.
god, those freaking fairies. Can't tell me they weren't the villains.
Um, yeah, do you wanna talk about
The evolution I mean, we can
would you
also
say
talk about
that
the evolution
there's
of the princes
Oh, we
because,
could,
I mean,
yes.
there's the princes who, went from just B&Es and, like, sneaking up on people in the woods like, "I'm gonna sing to you and now you love me." Like, that was it. Like,
Yeah, or I'm gonna hear a voice from you, and
they
now I'm
didn't have to work for
obsessed
it.
with you.
They didn't have to work for their happily ever after, which I made a note about that
Whereas
too.
now the men really had to work for it. I mean, Tiana, he had to
They
mince
didn't
mushrooms the
he
correct
oh my
way.
god, it was so cute. Wait, at the end sequence, I forgot about this before, but, like, the end sequence when they finally had the restaurant, he presented a large tray of minced vegetables to their parents. I was like
All the
he's like
same
he's
size.
like, "Listen, I'm gonna paint." He was painting, he was building, and then he's like, "And I'm not gonna get in this kitchen, I'm a mince, man. I'm a mince like no man ever minced before." But, I did make another note about with the happily ever after, bit, and it was personal. It made me realize with the evolutions of me, when I was a kid and I used to daydream about my future and fantasize about, like, my happily ever after, I couldn't see past, like, having a wedding and maybe, like, popping out a baby or 2, but, like, once I did that, I would have to start my little fantasy all over again. I couldn't visualize myself getting older. I couldn't picture myself, like, retiring and things like that, and I think it's because the evolution of Disney is, like, especially in the Renaissance era, is, like, the movie ends once they get married.
Mhm.
Sometimes you get a sequel where they have a kid, but, like, that's about it. You don't see them grow old together. You don't see how they keep their marriages together or anything
Like
like that.
Up.
You're right. You're right. But even that was just a montage.
Yeah, but also Up
And
didn't happen when you were a kid.
it
Up
didn't. I
happened
was a
when you
whole
were
adult.
adult. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, like Up.
Yeah, because I still struggle to see past tomorrow.
Oh, no.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I can see like maybe a couple months in it. But like this is why I started living my life in Mercury years. Did you know that Mercury has a year? of about 88 days. But a day on Mercury is about like 58 days. Like every 2 days it's a new year.
Yeah, every planet has its own kind of year.
But anyway, but I like the idea of having a new year every like 3 months. And so that's why I celebrate my quarter birthdays.
I actually didn't know why you saw it. I remembered it had something to do with Alice in Wonderland.
No, you said that
I said
about
that.
unbirthdays. I don't
Yes.
celebrate my unbirthday every day.
I don't celebrate my unbirthday every day, but I will celebrate a day on this planet every day.
Yes. Thank God we're alive.
Woohoo!
Okay, moment over. What else were we talking about? The princes?
Moment over.
Moment's over. We gotta keep it
We
moving.
were talking about the princes and the evolution of princes, and then we were also
Oh,
talking if there was one
you know what?
for sidekicks.
I don't think that at the beginning of the Renaissance, those princes didn't have to work with it. Ariel saw Eric from afar and was like, "He's cute. I love him now.
She's like, "Oh my god,
His
he
his
has a
statue
dog."
his statue landed in my grotto or whatever." And so
Yeah.
so she just made him the
You
one.
know she had so many fantasies with that
Mhm.
statue. I'm sorry, but as a Pisces,
Do you
she
think they were only
daydreams.
fantasies? And moving on.
Yeah, moving on.
The first prince that we saw kind of work for it was the Beast. And I mean, like, he got homegirl a library, but he also scared the bejeebus out of her a few times first. So,
Captured her father, put him in a
like, he
cage.
had a lot to make up for. I mean, if he
Yeah.
hadn't done all of that in the beginning, like, he might not have had to do as much work.
So that's actually a really good question that just popped in my head. What prince do you feel was one of the first to really earn their person?
Hmm.
Now, I can't
Let
remember
me go
what
through the
year.
list.
I'm thinking maybe hold on, let's
I
look.
mean, did Aladdin work for it? I mean, he
Did
wished for it.
I mean Hercules? Did Hercules? I feel
Mm,
like Megara did a
Hercules was
lot of
on his
work.
own journey to
Yeah.
become like, to earn his god
Esmeralda didn't
status.
really have a prince.
No.
Okay.
I will say, though, that Phoebus, because they kind of ended up together in the second one, to my recollection.
Okay. I never saw the
I
second
don't
ones of
really
any of them.
I mean, I know that there is one, and I think I might have just read about them reading like, ending together. I
Now
I'm
you're
pretty
gonna hate
sure.
me because I didn't see Tarzan, but would Tarzan?
I mean, he definitely did work, like, he learned how to speak English, like, Jane kind of helped him learn how to be human, because remember, he was raised by apes.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
What about Eugene?
Eugene
I feel like
absolutely.
Eugene really worked
Eugene
and had the
absolutely worked for
patience
it.
and allowed her to be
So,
her.
I mean, I think technically, if we're going down this list, David was working for Nani. David was working for Nani. He was working for Nani.
What's that? You got
And
a your
he
light
was
bill?
patient. Also, I think Nani had ADHD as well. And I
Okay.
think that's why she was so protective and so adamant about, like, trying to
So many different
we can do a whole deep
jobs,
dive on Lilo and Stitch and Lilo and Nani.
like all her jobs.
All the multiple jobs or the inability to keep a job. The house was kind of always a mess. Like,
Granted,
she had time
she was
blindness,
also doing all that by
but
herself too, though. I'm
that's
just
the thing
saying.
is, like, I recognize that Nani was doing all of this as a single parent, so I resonated with her being a single parent and trying to do it, and then she was a young single parent. She wasn't a parent, she was a sister
Yeah, she
who
was
had
like
to
a
become a
teenager.
parent.
She was like, what, 18, 19?
She was, at least in her, like, late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
Um Yeah, and
That's
then, like,
hard.
absolutely, and you see how it affected her financial health. It affected her romantic life, like,
Any social life. Mm.
what friends did she have? Even Tiana had a couple of friends that she was constantly rejecting them, but she had some. They were like, "Come on, dance." She's like, "I can't. I don't got time for dancing." So David was definitely working for Nani, and he was working in a subtle way where he was just patient. He was like, "Hey, you wanna go surfing?" And she's, "I don't have time for this, David." No, David. Um, but, like, so Tiana, I think, was the first one that we saw Prince Naveen really working for her.
And he was not used to working either.
No, he was not, and he was like, "I'm learning how to mince, babes." And then when he made the little ring and he had the bow tie,
Aw.
whatever, Rapunzel, Eugene definitely put in work, like and again, it was a subtle way where it was just like, "I'm just gonna be here for you, I'm gonna support you," and, like, their stories happened in a very natural way. We saw Kristoff do that for Anna.
Mhm. I will say, I know we're not talking about it right now, but, I loved that Merida didn't really have a prince,
No,
really. It was more of a
it
mother-daughter
was her
relationship.
working to fix the bond with her mom.
And it wasn't just her
Uh,
alone fixing that bond, her
mhm.
mom was
Her mom had to do the
also
work too.
doing that work too, and that was a beautiful story, and that's also why I cried because I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh my gosh."
Yeah.
Okay, yes, moving on to the Elsa and Anna.
Yeah, I mean, Moana didn't have a prince, but, like, you see, like, even if you wanna just go into a relationship with her and Maui, like, they supported each other, so there was that. Raya didn't have a male counterpart,
And this is where we're seeing an
and
evolution
that's
of
where we're
like,
seeing the
okay,
evolution.
they didn't
Same thing
need
with
to have a guy
Mirabelle.
in there.
Mirabelle was doing the work for herself. Raya was doing the work for herself and her people. Moana was doing the work for herself and her people. And I love that for them.
Me
I
too.
love the way that their stories go, and then, like and with Raya, you can almost even see, like, you've seen it, right?
I've seen it. I was gonna see it as my 5th movie, but I had
So,
already watched 4
the,
movies with a busy week.
the other princess from I forgot what her name was. Oh god, I can't remember what her name was. It was only the second time I've watched the movie, but the villain princess, like, the one that was from the civilization that stole the things. I think they were from Fang.
Okay.
Okay, you know the one that was, like they were fighting first they were, like, besties, but then they started fighting each other?
Oh, in the
The one
beginning.
with the, like, the little crop cut?
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved their relationship, I love the evolution of their relationship because she went there in the beginning, like, you could see that her mom was the villain, like, she had plotted to steal the crystal or whatever, the gem, and she had her daughter she kinda primed her daughter to go along with it and pretend to get close to this girl. I think there was some genuineness to that relationship when they were little girls, but ultimately she was trying to distract her so that she could get her people into where they were keeping the gem. And then as they got older, you see how they're constantly, like, running into each other, they're battling each other, but at the end, like, they make sacrifices for each other, which got me got me crying.
And Encanto also had me crying. But
Kanto
like,
makes me cry
how
every
great
time.
was that? Like each character, each sibling had something, right? And Bruno's being the black sheep, but it's just completely misunderstood. And even in the end, he's like, I saw that there was, clouds in your eyes and I wanted to check on you. I didn't mean that your wedding was gonna be a
But,
dark and
like,
stormy
that's
thing.
where Bruno is clearly the neurodivergent, and that's another one where Mirabelle I think Mirabelle might have a little bit of the ADHD where, Bruno has, like, the ASD, and you can see how those 2 characters were the ones that were both outcast by the rest of the family and how they had a natural
And they
bond.
have how they got together. Yeah.
And I love that for them where, like, and that's kind of, like, the part of, like, neurodivergence that I think people don't talk about with you have the vibes, you can kind of you can predict the future. Neurodivergents are psychics. You can't tell me
You
they're
can
not.
literally read a room.
You can
They
literally
can
read
read they
the
can read a
room.
room, they can read a room, and if they can read a room, they can read a person, and if they're just like,
Mhm.
"I don't vibe with this person, Imma walk out, Imma step over here."
But and I think I've talked
I
about
understand that completely.
I think I
I do
talked about
that.
this where it's like whether like I believed before getting my diagnosis, I just believed that it was, oh, I have special powers. I didn't know like the power is my neurodivergence where I have psychic dreams. Like even the or I have thoughts that I'm like, it's like a whisper that goes in and out of my mind until it happens. And I'm like, did I make that happen? Did I predict the future? Am I that so Raven? Like, you know, it
Yes. The answer is yes.
that chick had ADHD too.
But like I say, I really truly believe everyone has gifts. Everyone
Oh,
is
for
born
sure.
with gifts. It's just whether or not
Whether
it's
you tap
diluted,
into it.
whether or not you can tap into it. And honey, you have gifts. There we go.
Um, yeah, so that's the evolution of the princes. Now you wanted to do the evolution of the sidekicks?
Is there but, that's a question. Is there and do you feel like there was an evolution of sidekicks? Let's go down this
Let's
list
go down
again.
the list again.
Classic era, out. right? Unless we're talking
I
about Alice
mean,
in
we're
Wonderland.
still looking at a bunch of animal side well, I mean, I guess they're all mostly animal sidekicks.
Yeah, but they didn't really have any real roles.
Their role was to, like, be hype men.
Service. Their roles were as acts of service,
Because like,
basically.
Flounder was basically just, like, a tag along to Ariel, with
Yeah, I feel like with Ariel, we had a little bit more of an evolution with a sidekick because they spoke more, they had more dialogue. Sebastian was a
but the
caretaker.
Ariel's the first one in the Renaissance. The classics did not have sidekicks.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, except for Alice in Wonderland. That's
Well,
why
who
I was
was
like,
her
we can.
sidekick?
Um, there were different sidekicks, but they weren't really sidekicks.
I
The
feel like
White
they were
Rabbit was
okay.
like
I
keeping her on track with time and stuff.
like
Like each person that she went into, I feel like was kind of like the sidekick, unless we want to just call that the journey, and
I
then we
think
can
though
just
yeah, I say that those are just the
part of the
characters that she
journey.
meets on her journey. Because I feel like every princess has her prince, she has a sidekick, and she has, like, an advisor or, like, a wise old sage. Like, so Flounder was the sidekick, Sebastian was her
Wise
wise old
sage.
sage.
Hmm. Uh,
Somebody's gotta nail that girl's fins to the floor.
Bella didn't really have a sidekick,
She had Philippe,
but was that her sidekick or the
or then she
Beast's?
had the teacup.
Mrs. Potts, maybe.
That's the wise old sage.
Okay.
So maybe she
um,
didn't have a sidekick,
Jasmine's tiger didn't talk, but it had a few
but that was her
moments.
sidekick.
That was her sidekick.
But also, Jasmine was not the main character, Aladdin's the main character, and he had Abu.
Oh no, he had the genie. Would the genie be the wise old sage? No, right? Like
Technically, I mean,
he would
because
have
Cinderella
two
had the fairy godmother, so Genie's like his fairy godmother.
with a lot of ADHD.
With a lot of AD he was just he was a main character wise old sage.
A sidekick giving main character energy.
There you go.
I love Pocahontas's sidekicks.
Miko,
Miko, and
and
then
then
I don't know the hummingbird's
Flick,
name. Flick. Yeah.
and that was her second wise old sage. He was always trying to keep her on the up and up because, Grandmother Willow was rooted.
Yeah, he always
Get
trying to
it?
attack always trying to attack and fight for her even though he's very little.
Anyway, Megara did not really have a sidekick or
Well,
on
hold
Pain
on,
and
you
Panic.
skipped one.
Oh, Esmeralda, my bad.
So not
Oh, she
Esmeralda,
had the
but
goat.
she did have the goat. But if you look at what is his name?
Phoebus,
No.
Quasimodo.
Yes, thank you. He had the gargoyles, but however, I was thinking, are the gargoyles actually his sidekick, or is he slightly schizophrenic and having episodes because of being in solitude so much? However, he's not because they were throwing fire
Mhm.
and arrows to people. So how could he have done that at the
I th
same time unless he lost his consciousness, left into a different personality and did that, and then went back over?
Maybe it was him and he was, like, yeah, he could have been having an episode while he was doing, I don't know, throwing
I
fire,
mean,
but
heightened stress, you could have an episode and be
it's
multiple
true.
people at the same time.
That is a whole different conversation.
I know but
I
that was going through my mind when I was watching it. I was like, "Wait a minute."
I fell asleep, so I didn't get to the end. I got to the part where they, like, went through the den of thieves or the whatever.
Okay.
So, anyway, I'd have to rewatch it and then, like, I would have to read more about, like, DID. But, yeah, Megra didn't really have a sidekick, right?
No, it was Hercules who had, Pegasus.
Pegasus, yeah, because again, she's not the main character. Mulan Mushu, but, like,
I love
this is where we get,
Mushu.
like, a combo of a sidekick slash wise old sage.
Yeah, I love Mushu.
He's the best sidekick. You
We
can't
also
tell
had that
me.
cricket. Did the cricket have a name?
Ricky
Okay, thank you.
or Cricket, yeah. I like how in the remake they gave one of the soldiers the name Cricket
I didn't even realize that.
because, like, yeah, I don't think they, like, made the animated Cricket for it, but I love that.
The remake was awesome.
The remake was
I don't know
beautiful.
why people had a problem with that, but I thought the remake was
I
awesome.
feel like because it got rid of some of the mystical stuff, but, like, it still did have, like, the whole thing with the chi. So I don't know. I think because it was, like, it had a more serious tone to it.
War is serious.
Indeed it is, but whatever. Jane didn't really have a sidekick, but she wasn't the main character. Tarzan had his, like, ape buddies.
Okay, again, I will have to do that for homework.
Moving on. But his ape buddy Turk, from to my recollection, was also definitely giving, like, sidekick slash old sage energy. Um, I don't remember Akita. I don't know about that one, but Lilo and Stitch, obviously Lilo. Stitch is the sidekick. And that's where you get a sidekick with well, he's actually a main character.
Would the sister be the sage? No, right? No?
Maybe Cobra Bubbles is the wise old sage. There's an evolution to the old sages. He did try to, like, give Nani advice, and he was trying to help them, like, in a subtle way.
In a very serious way. With the
I actually
sunglasses.
I he's giving, like, Nick Fury energy, and I love it.
Nick Fury meets Kingpin energy.
Really, Kingpin? I mean, just because of the size?
Just the size
Oh, okay,
alone, just
fine.
brute size and just
Yeah, but, like, his energy is all Nick Fury.
yeah.
Um, yeah, Tiana did she have a sidekick? Oh, the
The
Firefly.
firefly with the butt.
Or was Ray no, Lewis, the alligator was the sidekick. Ray's the old sage. Mhm.
The lightning bug is the old
He
sage?
was the one that was giving them
We
all
are
the
definitely having evolution on old sages.
because, like, Lewis didn't really do anything. It was Ray who was, like, giving them love advice and, like, he was singing about Evangeline, like, oh my
My
gosh.
love bug.
He's like yes, when he was saying, "Je t'adore, je t'aime." I like that song about, "Look how she lights up the sky."
Okay. Yes,
I
okay.
mean, and he was giving, Naveen advice, like, he almost tore Naveen up when he thought that he was about to propose to Evangeline. But, essentially, he's like he was the one that helped bring their relationship together when they weren't seeing eye to eye, and so I think that's making him the sage, more so than a sidekick. Um,
What was Rapunzel's lizard's name? The
it's
chameleon?
something with a P, Pascal.
Pascal.
Yeah, Pascal. He didn't do much,
No, but you know what? Like, you could tell very
but very.
protective, like eyes on you kind
Mhm.
of like vibes.
Right. Okay.
I don't
Did
think Mirda
she
had a Mirda didn't really was her brothers her sidekick?
I don't think Merida was, like,
Mirda
in her
is
she has her own category.
yeah, she's on her own.
Well, with Anna and Elsa, they had Olaf.
Hola.
That's where you get, like, a that they go from sidekicks to, like, comedic relief in a
Yeah,
way. So
yeah.
I think that's the evolution of the sidekicks. Same thing, like, with Moana, like, Maui, if he was a sidekick for her.
I don't know why I thought the chicken
I mean, technically,
was
Maui defines the chicken and the pig as her like, the pig is actually her animal sidekick, but the pig isn't there for most of the movie. And the chicken is less of a sidekick and more of that's the comedic relief.
Yeah.
That's just like a whole subplot at this point, the way that he keeps getting himself into trouble. Raya had her little roly-poly bug thing, which yeah, that's where your sidekicks start coming into, like, they're helping drive the story. Like, if she didn't have that, she'd be walking across all those 5 lands instead of rolling around. And then Mirabelle, she didn't really have a sidekick.
Mm-mm. Yeah, the women, are becoming more and
They're
more independent,
independent,
and I
yeah.
love that.
Yeah, they don't need sidekicks. They're like, "If you're not, like, actively helping me, I don't need you." They're like, "No more sidekick energy." So that's the evolution of the sidekicks.
I love it.
I love it too. Oh my goodness, we got through a lot. Were there any other, things that you noticed about evolutions that you wanted to touch on?
I can't really think of anything
What was
right
your
now.
favorite era? What was your favorite?
I need to look at the list again.
Oh, sorry. Not me starting to clean up early.
Okay, hold on. Favorite era. Okay, I have few answers for this. Okay,
Okay. Ooh.
as a child, my favorite era was Renaissance.
Because we were in it.
Yeah, But, like, I had like, as a child, you get all the merch, you have a Pocahontas backpack, you have
Mhm.
you get the
Wait, do you
Belle
remember I think
costume.
it was, like, Burger King was selling, like, plates or cups with, like,
Yeah,
Pocahontas stuff on it?
yeah.
I remember I was trying to get the whole collection.
Happy Meals came with a lot of happy stuff back
Mm.
then, and so Renaissance, obviously, as a kid, that was my favorite era, but as
You
an
have it's a
adult
nostalgic thing for you.
yeah, but as an adult, I will say, like, this contemporary era is killing it.
I could not agree more.
It's killing it, and it's more relatable, and the fact that they're going into soul depth introspection, that they're
Mhm.
going into emotions, that they're going into, mental awareness, that they're going
Absolutely.
into how to, be within both
I
your
thought you were
dark
gonna say How to
and
Train Your Dragon.
how to be within both your dark and light side and
Mhm.
balance, like, "Hello, may the force be with you."
Indeed.
Like, I'm loving the contemporary era.
I could not agree more. I think, like, I love seeing these women, like, just doing their own thing. I had a moment where I couldn't remember if I started recording,
You recorded before I even got here.
that's right, that's why I couldn't remember.
Woosah,
Anyway,
woosah.
did you see my sheer panic?
Yes, I did.
ADHD moments, guys. ADHD, it's fun, it's so fun. But what was I saying? Yeah, I think Tiana obviously has, like she's one of my favorites, she has a special place in my heart, and I think, I saw her right at the time that I was going through a similar journey as she was. And especially in the contemporary era, Moana just absolutely touched my heart. Um, I think Raya, as that's another movie I have to watch a few more times because, like, there's a lot of message in that movie, and I don't think it got enough, like, props as it should. I don't know if it's because it came out, like, during the pandemic or what, but
Mhm.
I feel like I didn't hear enough about it.
And something else that I love about this contemporary era is, diving more and deeper into the understandings and sharing of
Mhm.
culture. To
Absolutely.
me, that's so huge. Like, I'm someone that is very spiritual aware, and I make offerings and give offerings to my ancestors, but also to those who are close to me who passed. So when I saw Coco, oh my gosh, I
I'm actually
cried
mad that I
so
didn't
hard.
put Coco on this well, I mean, okay, it wasn't a princess movie in the
Yeah, we're
slightest.
talking about evolutions of princesses, so I get why it's not on there, but, I mean, Coco, I cried hard, and
I
then to
cry
see
every time.
Encanto, I was like, "Oh, whoa, whoa, hold on a second,"
Oh, absolutely.
and I was like, "Okay, hold on, am I Mirabelle's mom?"
Yeah, and I think, like,
Because, like, I make food to, like, heal, I make, like, things out
Mhm,
of nature to heal, and she's like, "She can heal you with a meal," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's me."
that's you. Which I feel like I might be a little bit of a Louisa, like, not that I necessarily have super strength, um, but
Trying to keep everything
but I
together.
do feel like I put so much pressure on myself, like, I feel like, you know, my entire life, I always felt like I needed to live up to this certain expectations, and, um, that whole song, like, Surface Pressure, like, I can really relate to how she's feeling, like, especially as an oldest daughter and, like, being a firstborn, first daughter, first granddaughter, like, I felt like I had a lot of eyes on me, and, Luis is the oldest one as well, right?
Yeah, she's older sister, and so it's like she feels like all the things get put onto her shoulders, and it's like she can't tip
Can I
anything, otherwise she'll lose it, and then she's letting so many people down, but honestly,
can
that
we talk
shouldn't be
about
the case.
Dolores?
Dolores.
The one that okay.
Oh, we can't whisper in these
We
things.
can't whisper in these things. Okay,
Same.
but let's just talk about the fact that she's the villain. She's the villain. She's the villain. You can't tell me otherwise. She is the
Because
villain.
she hears Bruno in the walls?
Have I told you this theory before?
No.
Okay,
No, but her song says it.
exactly. But, like, no, her song doesn't actually tell you that she's hearing him in the walls. What does she say in the song? I associate him with the sound of falling sand,
Mhm.
right? And, she oh god, I can't even remember it now, but she alludes to the fact that sometimes, like, she could hear him. but she didn't explicitly say, like,
No,
Mirabelle
but
went
throughout the movie, she like did say that she can kind of hear him, right? In the movie?
Mirabelle asked her, like, about Bruno and, like, "Does anybody know where he went?" and stuff like that, and she's like, "No." She doesn't know. She acted like she didn't know that he was right there the whole time. It
In
wasn't it
the
wasn't till the it wasn't till
walls.
the end of the movie when in the final song that she's like, "I knew he was there the whole time." Yeah, that's what it was. She was saying,
Are
like,
you hitting me?
I'm sorry, I get excited. I do that. I'm sorry. But that's what it was. When Mirabelle was like, "Have you heard anything? Like, can you hear him or whatever?" And
Mm.
she's like, "The only one that's panicking is you and the rats in the walls," or something like that. Or she said something about the rats in the
And
walls.
she's
So
saying
she
it's the
called
rats in
him
the
a rat. She
walls, but
called
it's
him a
not.
rat. She's a villain. She called him a rat.
But wasn't it the grandma that was, like, trying to make everyone forget about Bruno, and so she's maybe just under the
So
influence
she's
of the grandmother and trying to
and
be
and
a
how
good
does
granddaughter
How
by
does that
doing
make
that?
her any better? Like,
It doesn't make her
she's
any
a full
better.
adult, and so she knows that Bruno's there. The grandmother might think that Bruno is actually, like, out
But
in the wilderness.
but none of the siblings wanted to say anything to
No,
Mirabelle
no, they
about
just decided
Bruno
not to talk about him.
because they don't talk about Bruno.
Yeah,
There's a whole song
they're
about
like,
not talking about
he's gone,
Bruno.
we're just not gonna bring it up. They decided he was trouble, we're gonna not talk about it. But this chick, everybody else might have thought he left and was just out in the wilderness.
But she knew.
She knew the whole time he was there. Like,
'Cause you know the
was she
difference
bringing
between
him
a
food?
rat and a whole person. Come
Was
on.
she br and he was back there having, like, soap operas. He's, like, having, like, telenovelas with those
Oh my
mice.
god, can you imagine if she's hearing the soap operas? Like, what if she's entertained? Okay, then she really is a villain. She really is like, "I'm just having a great time, like, hearing the
The
soap opera, eating
the
popcorn."
right, the grandmother has her own mission, and she in her own mind, she's justified in doing what she did, and she's just of a different generation that doesn't know better. I can forgive her a little bit.
A little bit.
Dolores was a villain. She knew what was going on the whole time, and she knew why, because she heard everything.
Okay, I agree. Agreed.
Now that I got
You
that,
sweating over
it
there?
makes me so mad. It makes me so mad when I think about Dolores and how, like, she technically treated Bruno the worst out of everybody.
Yeah, because she knew he was
She just
there.
knew
You
because she
couldn't
did the
give
whole
him
time.
any food, any water, you couldn't leave anything out for
Right,
him.
like, was
You
she
like
doing like, redeem yourself and tell me you were leaving food out for him. No, he had his little fake plate at the other side of the table. What was he eating? Was he if he was sneaking out into the kitchen at the end of the night,
maybe the rats helped him get food?
so he was eating rat food? Like
Not
the
rat food, but, like, the food that the rats bring from dinner, maybe. He
First
was
of all,
literally
that means
he was
it's
probably
crumbs.
surviving on crumbs,
That means they're crumbs, but also that means they were touched by vermin.
and he's still alive.
So, let's assume he's out sneaking out at night to get food, so he's not eating all day, and then he comes and sneaks out and gets some food at night. Dolores can hear it.
Mhm.
She never tries to make any contact, she doesn't try to talk to him. She can hear him going crazy in isolation.
That's
Villain.
torture. Yeah, no, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah. Let's actually wrap
Wrap
it
it up.
up. Gee.
That's too perfect.
That was very perfect. Nope. Nope. That one.
I'm gonna have to start color coding these.
They're already color coded. I just can't remember which colors are the code.
Coding the colors on these.
Maybe labeling them. But
Yeah.
all
I'm
right.
gonna draw a diagram.
A Venn diagram?
No, a diagram.
No, I know what you mean. I think of other words.
Ding ding.
Anyway, all right, guys. You have been listening to or watching another episode of Adventures in Vanderland.
Don't forget to follow, subscribe, watch,
Oh, yeah.
and listen.
I got distracted by my, like, 10-page outline that we did in 10 minutes.
Because we rock.
We do rock. All right. Come again next week.
Bye.
Welcome to the rabbit hole, or have fun outside of the rabbit hole for another week. Bye.
Ding ding.